loves aniyim, so why didn't he support them? Why did Baruch make aniyim? Zakti Gemara. So may answer, Kedei shenitzel anu behem midina shel Gehenna. In other words, we have to have seforim. We have to have a ticket to Gan Eden. By helping an ani, that's our ticket to Gan Eden. Then the Gemara says, Tonas Rufus HaRasha asked the same question to Rabbi Kiva. The Baruch loves aniyim. Why didn't he support them? The same teretz, nitzel anu behem midina shel Gehenna. But early in history, David HaMelech asked this very question, and that is David HaMelech asked, Rabbi Yishlem, you made this world and it's so imbalanced. There are aniyim that have nothing, Ashim have so much. Zokti Tanchum and Mishpatim test on our pasuk Kesef Talva, teaching a pasuk in Tilim Yeshiv Olam B'fnei Elokim Chesed ve'emes Man Yinsaruha. David asked the Baruch why is this world so imbalanced? And the teretz the Baruch gave is Im Yakulam Ashirim Mi Yochal Asos Chesed. The biggest threat to a Yid is when he can't do Chesed. Because Kol Meracham Abriyas, Meracham Lamina Shamayim, as the Mesil Shalom writes in Perik Yutes, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oiv El Misha Oiv Es Yisrael, and the more you show Avos Yisrael, the more the Baruch shows love to you. But you know, these Chazal are teaching us, Rabbi, you got it all wrong. You think that he has a problem, and I have to be there for him? It's Punkt Fakert. He has to be there for us. The aniyim have to lie to him and say, why do we have to suffer because of them? Nitzel anu behem medina shel Gehenna. We have to have a ticket to Gan Eden, and therefore the poor aniyim have to suffer. But this is a Yiddish way of looking at a mitzvah chesed, or tzedakah, or halva. If I have extra, the Baruch Shem gave me the schus of being from the Gebers, not from the Nemers, I have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But He's there for us. Nitzel anu medina shel Gehenna. You know, imagine you have an older couple, they have a family, or and every Chanukah they give out Chanukah geld, but this year there's just too many Einiklach and Oreiniklach. So they decide they're going to put an envelope and write each one's name, and they're going to ask someone to give it out. They push it, don't have the koyach to give out to so many children. And they choose an Oreinikov that needs a chizik, and you're going to give out all the money. Imagine this kid gets up on a chair, goes, okay, everybody line up, no talking, quiet. He turns to his father, quiet, ask me for the money. Because I'm giving you money, behave. A childish, narrow attitude. It's not your money, you're giving out the El Tazayda's money. You know, that's pshat in the pasuk, that's pshat in the Chazal. The Baruch Shem gave you his money. Nitzel anu behem midina shel Gehenna. Now, you know who says this? Not just me. I made up the mashal. You know who says this? The Or Chaim HaKadosh. And here, like often, you see the fire burning off the pages when the words that he writes. He asks on this pasuk, if the Baruch Shem holds it's a chiyuv to give a loan, so talk straight and say, Kesef Tab, why im? So the Or Chaim HaKadosh, Dvar Mesukah Mitvash. Im Kesef. If you wonder, why do you have so much money? He has so little. You know what the answer is? Talva esami. You have to lend it to someone else. I gave it to you as a gizber, like that child that's giving out the Baruch Shem's money or his money. But it's not simple. You know why you have extra? You know you have to give it to B'tshuas Esa'ani imach. You have his money. And therefore, he says, that's pshat lo'isir lo'kenoisha. You're not a malva. You're not, I want a karas hatoiv. I'm giving you your money. You have to suffer because of me. At least let me do it like a mensch. And we could add, that's why there's an issur of ribis. If you have his money, how dare you take ribis? You know, and the whole shal in the place, you're allowed to say thank you to the malva, ribis tvarim. But listen how the pasuk flows beautifully when you learn it, you'll learn it this week. Im kesef, if you have extra money, you know why it's there? Tal vesami. To help someone else. Why? Esa'ani imach, you have his money. Lo'isir le'kenoisha. The Ramban says, don't be like a malva. I am a malva. What do you mean? Teretz says, no, you're not a malva. You're a gizba. You're a trustee. You're an einikol giving out the zayd his money. And the alshich on this pasuk is the exact same pshat. He just adds that you're not betrupis. The Ramban, in one shtickle, he says, Im kesef talvasami, eved loivel ish malva, which you will soon see is a very important part of this mitzvah. The eved has to feel, the loiv has to feel he's an eved. But then he says, don't be a malva and don't take ribis, but don't take any tailors from the mitzvah. What does the Ramban mean? Teretz says that's the way the system works. The loiva has to feel that he owes money and he can't sleep at night until he pays back. But the malva has to feel he did nothing. He came and expected the ashikoyach. The Kli Yakar on this pasuk quotes the Medrash in Vayikra Lamadal Ches Yoisim Asher Balabayis Oisel Oni Ha'oni Oisel Balabayis. You're giving money and he's giving you nitzchias. That's a pretty good deal. That's a great investment. And he quotes the Gemara Bava Basra. The side of all chesed, but primarily in Yanim of Mamanis, which is very challenging to give of your money, is we realize we have a schus to be from the Gebbers. Let's do it. B'tshuas chein. Ha'ani imach. The Malva has to give it and realize, like the reprinted now, the Oiz V'Hada, Rishonim on Chumash, the Asikenim, and other ones, they have a period, the Hadar Zikenim. Well, one of the Rishonim, one about Toys, he touched the pasuk, Im kesef talva es ami, I'll tikra es ami as at imi b'mechitzasi zakbar yolam. Im kesef talva at imi, you with me. That's the unique privilege of giving him a loan. And then you understand what the chinuch writes. It always appealed to me. The chinuch in Tough Pay, the mitzvah of Tough Pay, where he writes the mitzvah is not to hold back from giving a loan right before Shemitah. Again, you have to realize, today we write a prusbul, so Shemitah is almost irrelevant. But in those days, there was no prusbul. And there's a mitzvah, chiyuv, to lend even before Shemitah. And don't be worried about it. It's like the chinuch. Why? Because whoever knows Darkei Torah, who knows the Baruch Stam's drachim, know that you never lose by doing a mitzvah. If you give, you get back. If you don't give, the money will go elsewhere. It's like the beautiful words of the Medrash in Devarim Dalet Hey, Om HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shimuli, She'ein Adam Shemeya Li Umafsid. You never, ever lose. You can't, you won't lose by doing a mitzvah. And that's why the Chavis Chaim, interestingly, regarding the mitzvah halva, he has a very unusual title, what we say, in this Nusach Shvat says it every single day, in the vidui before Tachnun. So the Chavis Chaim and Avas Chesed Chelik Beis, in the Agor, in the end of Perik Chav Gimel, he says, Rabbi's poemim, I wondered, we say, Sarna mitzvah secha, v'loi shavalanu. What does it mean, v'loi shavalanu? So Dr. Chavetz Chaim, when someone has a business investment, he works hard to make it work. He polishes it, and he makes it look good. Do we have the same approach to a mitzvah? Do we feel the benefit of a mitzvah? We have to give a vidui, v'loi shavalanu. A mitzvah is not as valuable as a investment. And if we make that practical, when someone's in business and he sees a customer approaching, he's overjoyed. No. Do we have the same simcha when we see a potential loiva approaching or a misholach approaching? That's the avla of v'loi shavalanu. And then you can understand the chinuch bayos, mitzvah samach vav. He says, and I'm not going to touch the words, I mean, it's so unbelievable how he writes it. If someone doesn't loan money, ha'adam meruchik, v'nimas, v'nisoev, v'nelach, u'meshukitz, ad shekarav liyais miyusay, kemiyas avodah zarah. I'm not going to touch that, but you know what he's referring to? Because in Parshas Re'eh, where again the pasuk revisits the mitzvah alva, he says if you don't give an alva, it's a davar b'li al. That's the same word the pasuk uses by avodah zarah, by er nidachas. So he says if you don't give a loan, all those accusations. Why? And here's what my point in halacha l'maisa. The mitzvah of loan is supposed to be a win-win situation. The loiva gets what he needs, but the malva is gaining the bracha of at imi b'mechitzasi. Besides, Periseim b'olam hazeh, keren kemes b'olam haba, and basically, it should be a win-win situation. But the problem is sometimes people get burnt. And we'll soon see that's the life is, churban. But the mitzvah should be something that shavalanu. It's just a great investment. I could use money to give it to a guy, I'll make $1,000. But if I lend it to a yid, I have the mitzvah halva at imi mechitzasi. But there's another gem in this pasuk. Because the truth is, when someone makes a cheshbon, lending money is a big risk. And the truth is, the sadder the story that the loiva has, the less chance of getting back the money. He made 7 chasans, he still owes all of them, he needs money for the next one. So you're number 8 on the list. And you could have mole terutzim karimoin. But you know what the answer is? Look at the pasuk. Ha'oni imach. Zok Rashi, quoting the Tanchuma in Perek Tezvav, mistakel ba'atzmecha kilu ata'oni. When it comes in a saying like this, just turn around the story. Make believe he's the malva and you're the loiva. Then all of a sudden the terutzim melt away. And that's really the issur of after kamoicha. Because the Welt asks, is it true kamoicha? If I have only one pair of shoes, I have to give it to the ani? It's not true. So I saw a number of poskim say the pshat, halacha, not that you have to give him if you only have one pair of shoes. But what would you want and he should do to you in this situation? Or to put it bluntly, you don't have to give him your shoes, put yourself in his shoes and think what he's going through. So look how much guidance there is in this pasuk. Esa ami, hesa oni, the Archaim's pshat, Rashi's pshat, but it's all to make it a irresistible offer. And it has to be shavalanu. Now again, people have a business, so that's their panasa. When someone has extra money, you have to be the maskil eldol to see, I have his money, I'm a gizban his money. And to do it with simcha. Maskil eldol is the quality of the mitzvah. Now, of course, the Chafetz Chaim points out, if someone does lend money but he takes ribis behet iska, it's not the mitzvah halva. Halva is when there's no ribis being taken. But what's really interesting, this is only half the picture. Because in Parshas Re'eh, as I told you earlier, Perek Tezvav, Pasuk Zayin, right, it's close to Shvius. But look where the pasuk talks, urging us not to lose this golden opportunity. Loisamei says levavcha, loisikba says yotcha, ki basoyach tiftach yotcha, havet avitenelu, hishamalacha, penye adav and levavcha, b'lial, lamer, I'm not going to get back the money. And pilaplayim. We're talking about a reasonable concern. It's almost shmita. But look at the lashonis. Leisametz, leisikbaitz, pasayach tiftach, havet havetenu, hishomer and pen, Rabbeinu Yoin and Sharet Tshuva, Gimel Samach Zayin says if someone doesn't give a loan, he's over on 2 lavin. Besides the assay, hishomer and pen. But it's frightening, the blial accusation. I am similar to an avodah zarah, to er nidachas. But if you realize it's a win-win situation, then it has meaning. And that's one of the ikki yisoidis of Yiddishkeit. Ein adam shemei li mafsid. Now, which of the psukim is the actual source of the chiyuv? So that is interesting. Most Rishonim learn im kesef ta'alva is a chiyuv. Some Rishonim say if a mitzvah says this, a chinuch says this. There are others that hold that the pasuk of havet havetenu in re'eh is the ikka source. That's megala on im kesef ta'alva. So that's the source. The Shiltis learns from the pasuk v'chayachicha imach. But don't forget, all agree it's a deraisa with 2 lavim. And that's why lemaisa is something that we have to realize is a schus, that we should be the Rebbeinu Shloim's shluchim to give out his money. The Chafetz Chaim quotes, in the Psicha quotes these are Rabbeinu Yoina, that it's not just a schus, but it's a chiyuv. I saw the Rashba ask a question, the famous Rashba in Chelik Aleph Siman Yud Ches, why you don't make a bracha on mitzvahs ben adam chaverei. So his teretz is because the person might refuse. But if you look at the Tumim in the beginning of Siman Tzadik Zayin, the better Rabbi Yonasim, he says because halva is a klal and peronius. It's an unfortunate situation. Don't forget it. You look in the Teichacha. What does it say? The bracha is at loy silva. So he says basically you can't make a bracha on a klala because the life is going through an ordeal. It's a churban in his life. At least as a malva, realize realize you're giving him back his money, and as much as we can, try to give him that feeling that I'm giving you what's yours, don't worry, pay it back when you can. But this is only half of the story. Maybe more importantly is the other half of this incredible mitzvah. And that is hilchos loiva. So Rabbi said there's no psukim at all talking to the loiva by the malva. There's psukim in mishpatim and re'eh, but there's one pasuk in Tehillim that speaks volumes more than the psukim in the Torah, and that's the pasuk in Tehillim, loiva rasha v'lo yishalem. The mere fact that David HaMelech calls a person who doesn't pay back his loans a rasha speaks volumes of the obligation of the loiva to pay back his loans. Besides the fact that if he doesn't pay back his loan, it's geneva, gzeila, leisashik, esreyecha. Many poskim hold not paying back loans is this violation. Besides the fact that really, in a certain sense, true tzitkus is when someone is erlich mit yenim spruta. I remember Rapam once said, the Ram in the end of Hilchos Chiris writes how a person has to be trustworthy and devoted to his employer. He has to be an honest worker. And look at Yakov had tzaddik, how he worked faithfully for Lavan. So Rapam Zechariah Baruch asked, Yakov was a great tzaddik, no one doubts that. But typically Yakov is Yaakov Avinu. The one place the Rambam refers to Yakov as a tzaddik is in this context. Apparently, true tzidkis is in the unimaminis. Because a person can be an el chayid and everything else, but it comes to the bottom line, like they say, he's lacking. The Kavayosh and Simon Nun Beis, Ikayir v'tzidkis b'mamen. But the truth is, there's more than just the Miyala Bahar Hashem, the Kichapayim. There's another element here, and that's the fact that a person that takes money and doesn't repay it is ruining it for everybody else. This mitzvah yakara becomes something that I've heard from many people. I think everybody has their own story. They got burnt. And taking something that's supposed to epitomize the at imi b'mechitzasi, a person could even think, I won't lend money again. And do we blame him? That's the churban of loiva rasha v'lo yishalem. It's not only geneva and causing tsar to the malva did a mitzvah, but it's a bezoyin of the Rebbeinu Shloim and his Torah and his mitzvahs. It's no longer dorchei dachei noyam rachmana litzlan. And if you look into Sefer Chassidim Siman Shin Yud Ches, and the Rav says it in Halva Siman Hey, even if someone's an oinus, he can't pay back his loans, but he's still included in loiva rasha v'lo yishalem. And lest you think that word rasha is used lightly, I'm going to tell you a tshuva from the Machne Chaim, a Talmud of the Chassam Soifa, Chayshemish B'chelik Beisim Memdalid. I couldn't make up such a story even if I tried. But someone asked, the Machne Chaim was a big kanoi, by the way. A Tameh Chacham Gadol V'Tzadik was nifta, and right before the Levaya there was a big sichsuch. Why? Because it seemed that two rich men approached this almana, who her husband had a big Tameh Chacham Gadol V'Tzadik, but he had a lot of chayvis, and he left her penniless. And they said, if you bury your husband, allow you to bury your husband next to our father, we'll pay up all your chayvis and we'll support you. And he threw in, he's going to give 500 zehuvim to the Chevra Kadisha. No irresistible offer. One problem. Their father was the Shtutz Russia. Officially. To the extent he was buried by the edge of the Beis HaKvaros next to the gate, and no one was in his distance. And they gave the almana the choice, the children of the almana a choice. And the almana accepted it. She had no money. The Chevra Kadisha jumped at the occasion. Right before the Levaya, the Maspid says, what? You're burying this Tameh Chacham Tzad Gadol next to this Russia? I'm not letting. And they quickly asked the Machchaim, what should they do? So he said, first of all, this Russia was nifta many years ago, and could be after a year already, a big kapara. But then he added at the end, and that seemed to be the winning argument, what's worse, to be buried next to a Russia, or to be a Russia? And this Tameh Chacham Gadol V'Tzadik never left this world as a Russia. Chazal really looked at Yenem's pruta, the difference between tzaddik and rasha. But there's more to it. I think this also has to be mentioned. Rabbi Yapian heard this story from his Rebbe, Reb Hirsch, that was an Adim of the Alter from Kelm. Reb Hirsch heard it from the Alter from Kelm, who heard it from his Rebbe, Rabbi Saul Salanta. Saul heard it from Rabbi Zundel Salanta, his Rebbe, who heard it from the Balamais of Chaim Volozhina. It's printed in probably half a dozen reliable seforim. But there was a Talmud in Volozhin that got very sick, and Reb Chaim said he has to go home and take care of his health. He sent the bacher with him, and they're traveling, they stayed overnight in an inn, and they were short in payment 7 prutas, sachako. So the inn says, don't worry, just get better, and you'll pay back on the way back to yeshiva. But the Barstam had a different plan, and the bacher was nifta. Reb Chaim one night was learning Besmedj late at night, and he sees this dead bacher, bahakitz. So he asked, what are you doing here? He goes, Rebbe, I came with Yenevelt, everything was fine, but I had a problem. I owed 7 prutas. And there's no entry into Olam HaEmes if you owe money. I said, but it's not my fault. I didn't choose to die, he said. But Yenem's pruta. So they gave me permission to come back to this world and make sure it takes place. Rebbe, please take care of the 7 prutas. And he was Nelam. This is the way a Yid is supposed to live. Yenem's geld, miyala b'har Hashem. This is the admission card to Olam HaEmes. Miyala b'har Hashem takes on new meaning. We just learned in Parshas Yisro. Yisro had a great advice to Moshe: set up a judicial system. You'll have batei dinim, and gam kol ha'am al mekoyim ha'yavoi b'shalom. Fragt the Chafetz Chaim, when you talk about a live person, you say leich l'shalom, brachis samach daled. Why are you saying leich b'shalom? So the Chafetz Chaim says Pashup Pshat. Yisro was not referring to they're going to have shalom in this world, but they're going to live their lives, they're going to have dinei Torah, they're going to think, I know better, I ain't think about the din, I have all these excuses. They come of Yenevelt and he owes money. And, return ticket, Yimiyala B'har Hashem, Dikechapayim. So Yisro was saying you have to do it for people of Yenevelt. Gam kolam al mekoyim ha'yavoi b'shalom. They're going to get of Yenevelt with all this chusim, but, Tamachochem Gadol Tzadik, but you owe 7 prutas. What's going to be? And this is another one of the ordeals of the Loiv Rosh V'lo Yishalem. Besides taking a precious mitzvah and ruining it, but look what he's doing to himself. Chazal were mesakin so many takonis shleitinal delas b'fnei lovin, pruzbol, hete iska, chasumim, many sugis, and Loiv Rosh V'lo Yishalem is doing just that. He's being noyel, deles, b'fnei halovim. The Pelpula Charifta above Metzia Perikei in similar Oislam Ches says if it would be up to him, als leitinal deles b'fnei lovin, he would make a halacha that someone doesn't pay up, you put the man in jail. So you're right. He's ruining it for all the needy loivim. And that's why it's important to give this picture. There's something that he's ruining it for others. I heard from Rabbi Kamenetsky many years ago, but it left a tremendous roshim. He asked the Kasha, the Mishnah of his Perik Beis, Mishnah Yud Gimel, says, Eiz derech yishar, what's the Eiz derech toiva, the right way to go? So there are a few choices, Ayin toiva, Chava toiv, Shachin toiv, Leiv toiv, and then there's Rayas HaNoiled, which is very nice. A person that has a vision, he'll act and live differently. Then the next Mishnah is, what's derech ra? So Davav Hifuchai. Leiv ra, shachin ra, ayin ra. But then comes the end, it doesn't say ein reis hanoil. What does it say? Leiv ra shevein mishalim. And then the Mishnah says eigen chiddush echad aleiv min ha'adam k'leiv min ha'makom. Shenever leiv ra shelo yishalim. So the Kanash is every part of it is davav hifuchai, and here it's not. And what's the shaykh? And what's shaykh leiv min ha'makom? So he said, I learned this pshat in the Mishnah firsthand. He said a story about him when he was traveling from Minsk to Vilna. His wife was expecting. It was a terrible weather. It was a ferocious storm, and it was coming Shabbos. And he came, there was no ETA in those days. He came to a Goyish city. There was one Yid in the city, and he was overjoyed. He felt a pekuach nefesh. He knocked on the door and he said, I have a wife that's expecting. Could we stay for Shabbos? Absolutely not, and slammed the door on his face. So he said, we came to Chilul Shabbos because of Pekuach Nefesh, we had to go to Goyim, a whole story. He said, after I came there, the Rosh Yeshiva, Moshe Mordechai Epstein, also came there with the same Kabbalah's Panim. And it was a plea. What happened? It seemed this Yid once took an Oireach in, and the Oireach woke up middle of the night and decided to go shopping, because the price you can't be beat, and took all the stuff and ran. So he made a neder, that's it, no more chesed. So Rabbi Yakov said, tell Zechvar, this was a ganav, a terrible person. But look what he did for others. He put my wife and my life in danger. He was the bezoyin of the Slabotka Rosh Yeshiva. So he said, when your person is the recipient of a chesed and doesn't act accordingly, is the opposite of the royas hanoilid. You know what the crime is? You know, it loiva min hamokav ebork delakus. The Baruch Shalom said, you do a mitzvah, you never lose. The Baruch said, you do a mitzvah, it's the greatest investment. And you're telling them it's not true. You do a mitzvah, you're going to lose everything. You're going to make a shvur, not do a mitzvah again. He said, it's very much davav hifuchay. Royas hanoilid, the opposite is loiveina mishalim. Meborg delakus, when you're the recipient of a chesed. And this is something that has to be mentioned. You know, there's hilchas malva and there's hilchas loiva. Meborg delakus. The stipler was once asked for a bracha. Someone said he borrowed money he can't pay back. So the stipler says, Arois, Russia, Arois. If someone borrows without a plan, it's a Russia. Loiva Russia v'lo yishalem, eved loiva lishmalva. And what about priyas bal chayiv mitzvah? You know, some people respond to mitzvahs better than to chesed or benam nechaveiroi. Priyas bal chayiv mitzvah. You know, the stipler talk. I saw this in the sefer Pnei Kilos Yakov. He had to marry off Nebuchadnezzar because his Adam was nifted at a young age. So he once came exactly the day of payment and he brought the money back and he paid the gemach. So the Baal Gemach said, Rebbe, you have to come yourself? He goes, yeah, priyas bal chayiv mitzvah b'yosim b'shluchay. See, Rabbi Yakov once insisted on mailing his own mail, because he said, in this mail there's a bill, and priyas bal chayiv mitzvah b'yosim b'shluchay. But the point is, besides everything, it's a chiyuv, it's a mitzvah, and it's our ticket to Olam HaEmes. I have a respect for a certain Rosh Yeshiva who tried very hard. He had a beautiful yeshiva. He came very difficult situation, and the yeshiva closed. So someone told me, he met him a little while, he says, what's the Rosh Yeshiva doing now? He said, I'm harving in the shvera sugya of priyas bal chayiv mitzvah. In other words, he could have declared bankruptcy, like unfortunately is done, but instead he worked to pay every last penny that he owed. See, that's a tzaddik. That's a Talmid Chacham gadol of a tzaddik, because it starts and it ends with erlachayt amaminus. The Torah Lishma, that's Rabbi Yosef Chaim in his Tshuva Sefer Siman Aleph, has a special tefillah that a loiva should say. Listen to the tefillah. Yiratzim v'fanech Hashem Elokeinu v'keveseinu shetiten li eze v'yochel l'shalom kol chayiv sheni chayiv v'lo yischalel shimcha al yadi. I think that's the most important part. You shouldn't be a chil Hashem that people do mitzvahs and they have charata. But it's interesting, people hide behind le'siyah le'k'nasha. You're not allowed to oppress me, you're not allowed to, it's a first apostolic. Rapam once told me it's kamat not negeya in our times. What does that mean, le'siyah k'nasha? Look in Chayshim Mishpat Alik Zayin Chav Gimel. He has to bring all of his possessions to Bezdin, even a mechet achas, and they only leave him enough that for him, not even for his wife or children, katanim, because the wife and children get from tzedakah. And the Shulchan Aruch adds, even if he's a Talmid Chacham, Teirasai, Nasai, they don't allow him to keep seforim. Sell the seforim. And my feeling is, don't hide behind Torah when it comes to Yenam's geld. You're learning Torah, now you have to harv in the sugya, or priyas bal chayiv mitzvah. But you have to sell even his seforim. So is it someone in this world doesn't have a house, or a car, or nechasim? Even in Einus, don't forget to have the story of the Machne Chaim, of Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the Sefer Chassidim, even in Einus. But the point is, there has to be a certain feeling that I must pay up the chayiv, eved loiva lish malva. So the malva, it's such an exquisite package. The malva has to look at that he's doing nothing. I don't observe yashikoyach. The loiva has to not sleep at night, eved loiva lish malva, priyas bal chayiv mitzvah, and I basically have to make sure it happens. But people don't know this. People don't hear this. You know, if the malva wants to be moichel, taveh lo bracha. But until that happens, there has to be a feeling that I have Yenem's Pruta. Rabbi Chaim in Stencil, in Bab Metzia, in Ksubas Peivav, someone asked him a question that Priyas B'Chayv mitzvah, but a mitzvah you're not mechayiv to give more than a Chaim Shinachasim, so maybe I don't have to pay back my Chayiv. So Rabbi Chaim said, wait a minute. That's when you're doing a mitzvah. Here you have his money. When you give back the loan, you're not giving your money, you're giving his money. Allah has to know, you have Yenem's geld, not just a mitzvah. But it's not just that, you have his money, but he has your admittance card to Olam HaEmes. Now, there is a little bit of chama, Rashi and Tillim on that pasuk, Loiv Rosh Leishan, Rashi concludes that Tzadik Choin and V'noisein. So Rashi quotes, and it's really in Tanchum and Mishpatim, that Loiv Malva, Tyra, took the Barsham, don't worry, I'll pay back the loan. Don't worry, I'm going to give back the money. You won't have to have doctor bills, you won't have to have this expense. But it's interesting, when Rashi quotes that beautiful medrash, Rashi still calls him a Rasha, because it's Feidinim. Malva you're not going to lose, but Loiv is a Rasha. What the person pays back the loan is not on the Loiv's credit. There has to be a feeling of, I must pay back my Chayvus. I hear someone in yeshiva, okay, lend me $1 to buy a soda. I say, wait, did you write it down? Are you going to pay it back? Only $1. I say, okay, so tell him, can you donate to the soda foundation? But you want a loan, you're not paying back. It starts in a chinuch with bacher. A child comes home, Tati, I was short $1. He said, come back next time. So I tell my children, go back right now and pay $1. You owe money, even less than $1. But there has to be a chinuch that parents have to give their children the fire, but Yenem Zapruta. And one last point, and maybe this will solve a lot of the problem. Maybe it's therefore before the Makkah. We have to train ourselves and our children, our Talmidim, to live with the words of the Yavitz and the Siddur, Berachmi halva kol ma shetuchel. To put it very simply, like the Tavar of the Yisod Church of Oida writes, Ani maze eschem b'azhara gedoyla shlei tikchu hakafa mishum adam. Avoid as much as possible from taking loans. Now, of course, ain't done an efsha mishi'i efsha. If there's a crisis, a person has a sudden medical expense, or Baruch Hashem, he has a simcha, or he finds a house and he has to buy a house and he can't do it on his own. No, and I've seen over the years, my experience with other people, when someone has to take a loan, when it's the Ratzon Hashem, again, it can be a medical expense, he buys to buy a house, he has to make a simcha. If he's going to be focused on doing the mitzvah properly, he will pay back. Trust me. When someone is going into the sugya like a loiva should, they'll be sayta d'shmaya. The problem is, which is more often the case, when someone borrows money, what he doesn't really need. He's doing well, but he has to extend his house, he has to do remodeling, he has to keep up with the Coneses or the Joneses, but he can't afford it. But today, this world, a loan is no longer busha. It's called a credit card. Swipe the card. Or go into a gemacha, they give you money, but you aschein. But when you start building, as the Gemara says, if you want to lose all your money, go into building. Just do that, throw in this, once you do it anyhow, and suddenly the loan doubles. And that's a life of Gehenna. The Gemara says in Erevin, Daf Mem Aleph Mabeis, Gimel Ein Araya Pnei Gehenna. And one of them, Rashi, the Gemara says, is someone that has a choiv. So the Welt says, why he doesn't go to Gehenna? He has Gehenna in this world. Halavai, that's where he should be, but that's where he's really supposed to be. And then he has Gehenna of the Evelt. And then sometimes the tzaddik becomes a loiv rosh of a yishalim. But the churban of the credit card, I want to tell you, is something that really brought us to a lot of our problems. I was asked by a shayla, I couldn't believe it. I almost started crying. Someone said he had chayvis credit card outstanding debts of over $25,000. I said, so what's the shayla? It's getting to a point that they're so fed up with him, they're going to give him a concession. I don't know too much about it, but they're going to be mוחל part of the loan. I said, really? He said, yeah, legal. So what's the shayla? His wife refuses to go with it. I was brought up, I owe money, I'm going to pay. His wife does not want to take this concession. How are they going to pay back? He has no idea. What should he do? Shalom Bayis is shaking. He's thinking, what's going on here? This is where we're holding. They owes money and they'll mוחל part of it. But a Yiddish neshama feels you don't take what you can't pay back. The Chazon Ish writes in the Igeres Beis Yud Beis, Lepela be'enai, shencha machzik b'midas hapazizus kol kach, shebeshvil yoyim echad kvar achrachta levatel, ulifreitz geder l'shloich yod b'halvoyis. I can't believe you took a loan. Hamashches es atzilas hanefesh, ugoyim busha la'atzmacha u'la'cherim. And in Chelik Aleph, Michtav Chaf has an hogis to people, Lizor ma'oid sh'lilvois kesef mishum odom. That's the refuah before the makkah. Things that we have to borrow, no, hechach le'yaguna. But so much of the problems is, someone told me he's a big askim. You have no idea how many people are making chasanas with money they don't even have. And they're borrowing to keep up their image, and they're going into heavy debt and heavy depression. And it's all because, the loan system today is much easier. I told someone, I would touch up the word loan today, tchalasai mosik ma'oid, and soifai marmi mavis. Today, you walk into a gemach, a shena yit, sure. You walk into a credit card, just swipe with the card. But you have to live with that. What do? Try living without that the thing that you think you need. Someone came to the Chazon Ish, he says he has betachin that he's going to take a loan and pay it back. Chazon Ish says, why don't you have betachin that if it's so important, the Baruch will give it to you without a loan? That's das Torah. I bought a house, Baruch Hashem, and so someone told me, he says, better eat tuna fish every night, but make sure you pay up your loans. And Baruch Hashem, it wasn't that bad, but I listened to him. But then I learned Gemara, it's a Pharisee Gemara. Psachim Kuf Yud Daled, listen to a Lashon Gemara. Achoil botzel, v'sheiv betzel. Sagt the Rashbam, if you eat vegetables, at least you'll sit in your own home. But if you eat fancy food, you're going to be evicted, and you're going to have to live elsewhere. Sagt the Marvaita, and this is really interesting. Achol alisa, that's a expensive food. Toshi ba'alisa with an eye, you're going to have to hide in your attic. Because, you're lavish and you spend, and you're a big spender, but you have chayvus, you have to hide. If you eat regular food, you could live in the center of the town. This is an attitude that we have to give over to our family and ourselves as well. Loans, more often than not, are the beginning of a churban. And that's when the risk of losing our admittance card, mi'ala b'har Hashem. When it's the Ratzon Hashem, the Baruch will give us the ability to pay back. When we have a suffix, at least ask a shayla, like we do at every other critical juncture of our life. This is something that we're crossing a line that we really shouldn't be crossing. The Baruch will help and taka that the mitzvah of the that's the essence of darchei noyim of chesed can work and will work if each does their own. The Malva does his part, the Loiva does his part. I'll be zeicha to an oilam chesed yibana. Guten Tag to you all.
Shame issur to like to big issur to Smith for today's ship. We like to big issur to Simcha Collins for sponsoring today's ship.
Do you know who did that?
Sponsoring today's ship, we finish Mas Oviv, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Yisrael, HaKohen al V'Shom Yotzar Yudcha Shvat, and Esposa Tshuva B'Tzur HaChaim, to have the great schos sponsoring a ship. Call Issur 718-851-8651, or email ist@yeshivanet.com. There's a Shem after the Kaddish, of Smith says, Seekim of today's shir. Chananya ben Akasha Omer, what's like a Bogle Zakis, and so we give him to a Midrash Nemal and a Chofes, and Sidka Yagdul Terviyade.
I want to talk to you. Wait. Yeah.
Okay, we don't want to borrow too much time from the Olam. Mitzvah borrowing.
Let's just review. We learned they all agree there's a mitzvah deraisa of halva. The question is which pasuk, but it's definitely the deraisa. According to many Rishonim, the Chavetz Chaim Paskin is also a lav, yisham, a pen, and lav dafka money. Any item that's consumed, you borrow sugar, eggs, a diaper, it's a halva. Be careful, it shouldn't be ribis. If you borrow a sefer, even though in English we call it borrowed, but it's a mitzvah of chesed, it's not halva. If you give back the chayvetz be'en, that's chesed. If you give back a new chayvetz, that's halva with the limitation of ribis. If a person will not pay back his loan, don't lend it to him. You're not doing him a chesed. If you're not sure, look at it like an investment. When you do it for a financial gain, then you could do it for the mitzvah gain. Try if you have to refuse, use a nice lashon, a powerful lashon, as if it's your problem. And I should mention, don't say come back next week because it's not going to help anything. Tell them straight out, I can't do it. I have a certain problem now, whatever it is. And if need be, even allow a lie to keep the shalom. Yisrael v'chinam and akum beribis. There's a mitzvah of chesed, of halva, because it's a mitzvah of chesed, tzedakah, not just a mitzvah of chesed. So even if it ends up losing a little bit of the interest, or even a lot of interest according to the Megillah Esther, it's a mitzvah of tzedakah and ani ircha koidim. When someone does with panasa het iska avada, he's allowed to do it, but it's not the mitzvah halva. But there's no chiyuv on him, either on a banker or a store credit, because this is his panasa, and there's not part of the mitzvah, not the chiyuv of im kesef talva. We did see a beautiful taich im kesef. You have extra kesef talvas ami esa ani ima, because it's really his money. He's suffering because of you. At least do it b'tshuas chen, l'isiel of kenoisha. Don't make him feel like he's a loser. If I care, you're not a malva, you're a gizbar. It's a training. The chinuch says in learning, you're not losing by doing the ratzon Hashem. Ein ad b'shemei umafsid. If we don't give a loan, it's a chsaron of leishav alanu. The way to do it is kilo ata ani, as if you need the loan. All the excuses suddenly melt away. The point is the chorban, the klala, the peranius of the halva is when the loiva rasha v'lo yishalim. Those words of the tumim are so true regarding the loiva. The ikatsitkis is miyala b'har Hashem, the kichapayim, and even an oinis. But as we saw from the Machnechayim, Rabbi Chaim Volozhina, really it's a sefer chasidim, that even if there's an oinis, but lamaisim aborg delikus, and it's something that a person has to work b'chol koichay to pay back every last pruta. Now, even though lamaisa, we know priyas b'chayv mitzvah, but you're not doing him a favor. You have his money and give it back to him. The Yishlem will repay the malva, but the loiva has to know the chayv is still unpaid. A person that says lend me $1, don't say that. You want $1, say give me $1, I hope to pay you back. But don't say lend if you're not going to pay him back. Forget the Gemara says, and I forgot to mention in Chayshim Mishpat, it says you're not allowed to lend money without either a star or Adam. So certainly never put yourself in a situation you might forget to pay back the chayv. And the most important, if you don't have the money, you probably don't need it unless there's extenuating circumstances. And remember, but if the malva and the loiva do their parts, the mitzvah will once again be the oilam chesed yibana.